everybody, and welcome to RC Galaxy Reviews. Are you interested to see how these two vehicles from FMS compare to each other? In this review, we'll be finding out. The Chevrolet K5 Blazer 110 scale from FMS was their first vehicle on their new chassis. Then they revealed the Toyota LC80. There is a $100 price difference currently, and let's find out if $100 really makes a difference, what this car has more features of, and FMS took some experience from this car and added it into this, or tweaked this car to make it better. And let's find out what is better, what is worse, the pros and cons, and so much more. Let's first talk about pricing. Now, the Chevrolet K5 Blazer has a price tag of $399 US, and the LC80 has a price tag of $299 US, so a $100 price difference. Now, the K5 Blazer comes in 3 different exterior colors. This brown and yellow two-tone that I chose. It comes in an orange and white two-tone, and then a plain one-tone black exterior. Now the LC80 comes in this silver, and then on the side there are some red, orange, and yellow stripes, as you can see right there. And then if you opt for the brushless model, which I do not have here, that will be $459 US, and it comes in a blue and white two-tone. Now, let's talk about the lighting that these vehicles offer. Let's first talk about lighting. So the LC80 has these 4 lights at the top, and then we have the lights down there. To turn them on, there is a channel 5 that you press, and then they will turn on. It's nice to see that we have lights that actually work at the top. I haven't seen that in all vehicles. We do have turn signals, and then if you turn the lights completely off, we also still have turn signals. So for those who do not prefer them, that might be a little bit of a disappointment. Here we have our snorkel right there, and then down the side we have a cockpit with a person inside, which is pretty cool, and it definitely does add to the realism that this car has to offer. Toyota right there, and then we have our colorful strip right there, which is pretty nice as well. Come around to the rear, and we have our tail lights and then a little ladder. We also have a storage area at the top. Now, the body doesn't scratch super easily, which is definitely nice because it does look really good in my opinion. The proportions are pretty good, but there are some things like the wheels, in my opinion, are a little bit too big. But other than that, I haven't had many scratches on this car. And for the tires, they are reasonably grippy, and they are pretty big. They are on the firm side. There's quite a lot of foam in there. And the wheel design is a matte black finish, which is pretty nice as well. I do like it, but honestly, I definitely wouldn't see this on an LC80 unless it was upgraded. Now let's switch to the K5 Blazer. Now for the K5's lighting, we also do have lights. We don't have any top lights, and we have a nice chrome grille. Now also, same with the LC80, we have turn signals that are always on, no matter what. This car does have quite a lot of chrome windshield wipers, and this was FMS's first 110 scale on this chassis, like I said earlier. So no interior, that is something that they've added on the LC80. Down the side here, we have K5 Blazer and a little emblem right there. And then come around to the rear, and we have Cheyenne right there. This does have a truck bed, but you can also put a white bed that I'll show you later on this vehicle. And then at the rear, we have these tail lights, and of course Chevrolet right there. Pretty simple. I do think that the proportions are off from the real K5 Blazer. There's just some proportions, especially the front, that doesn't look right in my opinion. The body does scratch quite a lot because there's nothing to protect it, and the car has scratched, especially on the roof. But other than that, the chrome also has scratched a little bit. Now the tires are the same tread as the LC80, but with less foam inside. They are softer and again pretty grippy, and the wheel style is also chrome. Because it's such a light and bright color, it does get really dirty. And as you can see, probably it is really dirty. But other than that, it is a pretty nice looking vehicle in my opinion. And now, let's look at the underbodies. Now to access the under, there are 2 tabs right here. this one right there, and then the one at the front. Once you twist those two, just flip the car back over and then take the body off. So very simple and easy setup. Here we have a 32 turn brushed motor from Power Dash. The slow crawl is pretty good, especially for a 10th scale, but the K5 Blazers is a little bit better. They both take the same battery. This car does not come fully ready to run with an included battery. I am using this 5200 milliamp 7.4 volt 2S LiPo battery, which gives the vehicle decent performance. Now here, as you can see, we have our magnets, which are the connection to the lights. We have our on-off button right there, and then this is our transmission gear servo right there. Now the shocks are oil-filled. They are actually quite firm, and so when you're driving on rocks or something, as you'll see later, it doesn't absorb the bumps necessarily well. And the flex is really, really good. About 5 to 6 inches, and I'm really impressed with how good the flex is on this car. And now let's check out the Chevrolet K5 Blazer. Now with the K5, the system is a little bit more difficult in my opinion. There are these two tabs right here that you just kind of push in, and this is actually pretty difficult in my opinion. I might have to turn the vehicle back over, but for the rear, we do have the same thing, and let me just try to get this to work. Okay, so we got the front open, and now let's do the rear. Okay, so now we have gotten the body off. As you can see, it was quite a struggle for me. Here we have a different motor. It's a 21 turn brushed motor. It has a little bit of a better slow crawl than the LC80. Again, I use the same battery on both vehicles, but this car does have locking front and rear differentials, so there is an extra gear right there. In my opinion, since I've been driving this vehicle, I actually think that the front differential hasn't been working because I don't see that little switch moving when I press it. I don't know if that's a default or if that's how the car is actually made. Again, we have our magnets right there, but overall everything is pretty close except the K5 Blazer does have this fender that you have to install, whereas the LC80 now comes standard. The K5 Blazer's shocks are a lot better and a lot smoother. They're also softer, so they absorb bumps better. And the suspension flex is about the same as the LC80. Now the K5 Blazer is actually surprisingly taller than the LC80. There's a bit more ground clearance, especially from the drive line in that area, but about ½ an inch, which is actually quite big when I'm off-roading. And now let's test the slow crawl steering and we'll look at the transmitter. Okay, so now for the transmitter, this is the FS MG6BS. It calls for 4 AA batteries. I actually do really like this transmitter. It is really nice for my hands. There's this nice cover right here, and then once you open it, we have all of our controls, the drag brake, the throttle trim, steering trims, and then we also have, of course, the on-off button right there. For this side, we have channel 4, which switches from first to second gear. Channel 5 right there, which switches the lights on and off. Now the drag brake on this car is actually not good. It's not as adjustable that the K5 Blazer has. There's 2 adjustments, and it's either really completely stopped when you're on a descent or rolling when you're on a descent, but it's not controllable. And I'm definitely not a fan of this drag brake system. Now I am in first gear, and let's see the slow crawl of this car. So I'm going to go as slow as I can. It is pretty quiet, and as you can see, we're keeping a consistent pace, very smooth and very quiet, which I like. And the full power is good enough for crawling, but if you're doing trailing, you definitely want to be in second gear. It's a lot better and it gives more power. I did notice a big difference between the first and second gear torque. So in second gear, the torque, if you're crawling and you forget to turn it into first gear, you will experience that if you're going up a hill, you won't be able to drive at all because there is very low torque compared to first gear. The steering angle is excellent. It has a really good turning circle. It's super sharp and very fast and easy to use. And you can, of course, adjust it so it's not as sharp. But for me, I definitely like maximum maneuverability. Now let's check out the K5 Blazer. Now let's talk about the transmitter. So again, same controller as the LC80. It calls for 4 AA batteries. We have a different texture right here, and this green light does give you the status of the battery to make sure that it is fully charged. Green means it's fully charged, and then orange and red means that it is running low, which is nice as well. Here we have the drag brake. It is channel 11, and I actually never knew that I would use it so much. I can really adjust it to exactly how I would like it, completely stopped, no drag brake at all, or right in the middle, and so much more, which I really like. We have all the dip switches to make sure that you are on the right battery and other adjustments. Here we have our normal steering trim, steering drive, throttle trim, and throttle drive, on and off button. And then here, channel 6 in this transmitter actually does something. So in the middle, it is all-wheel drive. When you turn it to the left, it is dig mode. So if you're on a tight turn and you just want to turn on a dime, you can use dig mode, and it really works well. And then to the right is front wheel drive mode. I have not used it yet, and I don't think I will use it because for the most part, I do like to stay in all-wheel drive. Channel 4 is for the first and second gear, and channel 3 does not do any adjustments or anything. Channel 5 right here is for the lighting, and then right here, channel 7 and channel 8. Channel 8 is for the rear diff. You can hear that it does do something, and then channel 7 doesn't do anything. And so here we have channel 9 and channel 10. I've tried to look up what it does, but I haven't found that it does anything when I press them or change them to how I like it. And now let's talk about the slow crawl of this vehicle. So the 21 turn brushed motor does give it a little bit of a better slow crawl than the LC80. It's a tiny bit louder, and right now it doesn't look like there's a difference, but when I am crawling, I feel like this throttle is a little bit more consistent, but it is also more touchy than the LC80, and the steering angle is absolutely amazing, and especially now with dig mode, it is even more capable of that. This transmitter is actually, once you get to know it, pretty easy to use, and again, pretty comfortable. Sometimes I do touch channel 4 and channel 3 when I'm driving because my hand is always like this, and I'm not able to drive one-handed, but I do like how it is nicely padded right there. Now, let's talk about the durability and the issues that I've had so far. Okay, now let's talk about the issues that I've had with this car. Mostly it is just one problem, and it's happened twice already. So the front steering servo has given out and failed twice already, and I've gone through 3 steering servos in just 1 year. I feel like the steering servo is quite weak, so whenever I'm flexing against the rock or something, it will just start jittering like this, and then after that time, whenever you turn, for me, it was whenever I turned to the right, it would just jitter completely. The first time we did send an email to FMS, and they sent us a new steering servo, and then just a few months ago it happened again, so we do have a new steering servo in this car. Quite disappointing for such an expensive price tag, and now let's talk about the issues I've had with the LC80. So the first thing that I've had is that the pinion gear slipped out of place. I went to my local hobby shop, NorCal Hobbies, and they said that it was a manufacturer issue that was fixed really easily. And the second issue that I've had is the gear servo failed once. So I was just driving on a trail and I was crawling up a very little rock, very little hump, and all of a sudden it just started making a really, really loud noise and the car would not move in second gear. All of a sudden the gear servo just gave out, which is quite weird, and I feel like the newer models that FMS has with a lot of different controls and quite a lot of technology do have more reliability issues. I do have the FJ40 from FMS that has their old chassis, and I've had that for about over a year now, and I haven't had a single issue with that car. So just something to know about it. But other than that, these cars have both been really great for me. And I hope you do enjoy the driving footage, and I'll see you back for Markus's marks and the final verdict.
Okay.
from Markus's Marks. I hope you enjoyed the driving footage, and now let's get into it. Now I do quickly want to note that when I did my full review of the LC80, which I'll link right below, I gave the vehicle different scores than I will this time because I'm comparing the LC80 to the K5 Blazer, which in the last video I wasn't. Okay, now let's start with the K5 Blazer. So for the exterior design, the K5 Blazer gets a score of 9 out of 10. In my opinion, I absolutely love this color. I think it looks excellent. I love the classic body and the chrome. It does scratch more easy, and the body proportions aren't necessarily perfect, and that's why it gets a score of 9 and not 10. Now the LC80 gets a score of 8 out of 10 because the body's actually pretty nice. It doesn't scratch as easily, and it has an interior, but the proportions are a bit off, and personally I like the K5 body better and the colors that the K5 has to offer. For the chassis design, the K5 gets a score of 9 out of 10, and so does the LC80. They're both very similar, easy to work on, easy to use, and a really well laid out platform. I think FMS did a great job on the platform that they put both of these vehicles on. For the crawling capabilities, the K5 Blazer gets a score of 9 out of 10. I just love all the features this car has to offer. The dig mode, the locking differentials, the adjustable drag brake. It's just a really customizable setup, which in my opinion is really nice to have. The LC80 gets a score of 8 out of 10 because the tires are a bit firm, but the capabilities for not having all those features is absolutely amazing, especially for the price tag. For the value score, the K5 Blazer gets a score of 8 out of 10 because compared to other vehicles like the Element, Enduro, Bushido Plus, this car is the same price tag, but it comes with way more features than the Bushido does and a much more scale body. For the LC80, it gets a score of 10 out of 10. It is a really, really good price for what you get. Yes, the drag brake is not amazing. The tires, like I said, are a bit firm, but for $299 US, I think this car is an absolute steal. For the overall score, my personal score of these vehicles, the K5 Blazer gets a score of 8.5 out of 10. I really do like this car. I've had it for about over a year now, and I have run into several issues. Just today, when I was driving on the off-road course that we videoed, the car would not go into reverse, and I had to power it off and then rebind it, which is something to think about, and I feel like that is all because of how much technology and features that the K5 Blazer has. The more technology, the more issues that could go wrong. And FMS has really worked out the kinks from the K5 Blazer and added the smoothed out version in the LC80. The biggest change is definitely the system to access the under. It is a fully clipless system, super intuitive and easy to use, and I really like how easy it is, but there is one con that the new system has. The body is not secured in place as well as the K5 Blazer, so it often bounces around, creating quite a lot of noise, and the lights flash on and off because the magnets are trying to stay to keep the lights on. Now the K5 Blazer system is really difficult to use. It's not intuitive and it takes me about 5 minutes to open up. Especially for children's hands, it is really hard because you have to have a lot of strength to make sure to push the clips in and out. But it does stay in place more than the LC80, like I said. I personally would choose the LC80's clipless system, even though it does make a lot of noise over the K5 Blazers, just because if you're changing a battery or something, it's really easy and fast to open up. And the LC80 gets a score of 9 out of 10. I feel like just because it's more simple, everything is a bit easier to use, and I really do like how FMS did add the scale interior and driver, and they've really worked out the kinks that the K5 Blazer had. If I were to choose one of these vehicles, in my personal opinion, I would be the K5 Blazer, but the reason why I ranked it lower than the LC80 is because it is more expensive and the other features are probably not worth $100 more than the LC80. Overall, FMS did a great job with both of these vehicles. I think they're really good cars, and I would recommend both of them or any of them if you would like to buy one. The K5 Blazer is definitely used for different purposes, mostly for trailing and a little bit of crawling, where the LC80 is, in my opinion, better for crawling. It has better flex, and the LC80 would be a better vehicle if you would like to focus on crawling. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this battle between these two vehicles. If you did, please give it a like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on another episode of RC Galaxy Reviews.